All right, I think we're ready to start the continuation of the public hearing for 75 Warren Avenue. You guys are up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so back in the fall, we sort of interrupted our process to allow the zoning board of appeals to go through its thing. And I guess the zoning board of appeals is in the process of going through its thing, but my understanding is they haven't quite finished doing their thing. They haven't closed their hearing.
And they can't close their hearing, at least how they explain it to us, they can't close their hearing until we close with you guys.
Yeah, it's, so now you're,
Back and forth.
back and forth.
So we're hoping to figure out how to work through the next
Yeah.
steps.
So are we.
Okay.
They have, as I understand it, the issue that they've thrown back into our court is the parking and vehicular circulation issue. They, I think,
I think that's correct.
we have a memorandum here from Jane Carlson.
Yeah.
So the way I interpret it, essentially saying, the planning board is going to, in its site plan review, determine the parking adequacy and the vehicular circulation adequacy. And as fate would have it, our traffic engineer,
Okay.
it happens to be, Bob Michaud happens to be here this
Great.
evening. So, and he's also been working on the rest of Warren Avenue, that's vehicular circulation for the street, so
Okay, great.
he's familiar with this project. And what we thought we would do is throw the ball in your court, Bob, to take a look at what they're proposing for parking, what's there now, and give us your professional opinion as to whether their proposal is sufficient for what they're going to be doing on the site.
Okay.
So
it sounds like they may be presenting information, and then I'll be weighing in? Is
Yeah,
that how
we
want it?
can do that.
we can start that way, and then you may need more time, or maybe not, maybe listen to the presentation.
Yeah,
and
yeah, because I wasn't
see.
really prepared to.
I also have some questions based on the information they've recently provided.
All right, so why don't we do this, we'll go through where you are today, sort of, and then see where we go from there.
Okay, great. So, can we use that? Is that okay?
Sure.
That would be preferred. Then.
Okay.
So the camera.
We'd ask first. So we tried to, so Peter Gammey's still our engineer, and he tried to kind of outline. Tried to outline the site, utilizing kind of the space that we currently have, outlining the proposed building. Currently, the parking is the majority of the parking is happening here. For both our business, I should say for all three businesses, Ogilvy's, Pure Solutions, and Weston Landscaping. The work trucks are housed on the site. The employees, a lot of whom carpool to work. They drive to the site, they replace their work truck with their personal truck, and then they take the work truck off the site. So what we tried to outline was a scenario where we showed kind of all the vehicles on the site at the same time. However, that's not really how it works. So we came up with 67 parking spaces and that does not include the Ogilvy's truck garage. So what we kind of had talked through with the ZBA was that, you know, stacked parking has kind of always happened on the site, and we've always, you know, found a way to utilize the site, you know, for the past 80 years. You know, obviously with our proposed building, it's all about site cleanup, site renewal, organizing things, really delineating out the 3 businesses. We've also taken a lot of containers off the property, as well as some of the big equipment, excavators, etc. So we kind of outlined Weston Tree. We would be giving them 100% of what we call the hay barn. And this would be kind of the upper area would be their area, or lower area, however you want to describe it. And then our team would be operating out of here. The residence has 3 vehicles. They leave during the day, they come back at night. And you know, that's kind of how they currently park. And then so we put Weston's vehicles here, and then their team kind of off where our guys you know, park their trucks and personal vehicles now. Again, we're swapping, but we just wanted to kind of show what we feel would be a good use of the site. And then the proposed building, we have the capacity to park 8 inside, 6 in the front. And currently we have 9 employees, 4 office, 5 field. So with the current you know, employees, we could, you know, technically, with the carpooling, park the majority of the cars inside. We consulted our lawyer. We tried to figure out the best way to give you guys a glimpse into our business plan without actually giving you the entire plan, because there's some intellectual property in there. But in that PowerPoint presentation, did you all get a chance to see it? So I brought.
You have copies of it.
I brought copies as well, if you would like to review that. Really our business plan is to grow throughout New England. And currently we have 5 locations: Westport, Connecticut, Weston, Massachusetts, Chatham on the Cape. We have an office space there, and then the Vineyard, as well as New Hampshire and Vermont, but that's a license agreement, so a little bit different scenario there. So our 5-year plan is to give you a 5-year snapshot and a 10-year snapshot. The 5-year plan is to kind of grow the current foundation up to 6,000 clients. We currently have 700 out of Weston. So 6,000 would be kind of a New England reach, which would only really have an addition of really 5 trucks, 5 trucks per location. So currently, if we were to grow out that way, we were at capacity. We would, you know, we're able to kind of obtain those new clients, and part of that growth is to the North Shore, which we have it kind of outlined, as well as the South Shore. So from a logistical standpoint and an efficiency standpoint, it doesn't make sense for us to house 40 trucks out of Weston. It really makes sense for us to divide 40 trucks by 8 locations. So that would be adding a North Shore, a Western Mass, and a South Shore location. That just, you know, takes, you know, granted, oil is trading at, you know, under $50 a barrel right now, so it helps service companies. But the goal is to be as close to the service area as possible. And then our 10-year goal is to, you know, achieve 150 trucks throughout our territory, but that would only have in-house 15 total trucks in Weston. So we wouldn't really be, we're not trying to increase the volume by too much on this site. Really, it's trying to strategically position ourselves throughout New England to grow the business. So we gave you guys some sound numbers, kind of a snapshot. We didn't want to give you too much into the revenue, but you've got to see a little bit of that on the 10-year plan. So really, we're kind of looking at the 8 and the 6. The 6 front work trucks, and then the 8 in the interior. We put trucks in there just to kind of show what we could stack. We could probably actually stack 3 regular vehicles. Our marketing director drives a smart car. That we have the capacity to really cluster around the proposed building. We're not really trying to get, we don't really need to grow based on kind of the expansion plan to 40 vehicles on the site.
Did you say that ultimately there might be 15 in Weston alone?
15 max, correct.
And is that-
So the 6, and that would be field specialists. The office staff would stay the same, and we'd have kind of groups of office personnel in each location. So there will be, sales rep, customer service rep at each location dealing with the client base at each location. So
But the trucks will be kept in Weston?
they'll be kept in those other locations.
And
So
your
currently,
others-
our Chatham location, what is it, 1,000 square feet? It's a 1,000 square foot, beautiful kind of cottage, weathered siding, right on Stony Hill Road. And that office space is maturing. Right now it has 2 trucks, next year it'll have 3 trucks. And then that office staff is maturing. So we're kind of just trying to scale this model location to location. This just happens to be kind of the corporate entity today.
Okay, but, sorry, but when you say 15
Right.
ultimately,
Right, would be the
how
max,
many
would be
of
the
those
10-year
are-
max.
are trucks, and how many of those are employees' cars?
So how it currently works is, so right now on the site, there are 5 vehicles. We actually, there's a 6th vehicle that is here for repairs, and then it's going back out. So with the current setup, there's 5 vehicles. So 4 trucks show up because one group carpools. So 4 trucks show up, or vehicles, cars show up, and then they replace where the 5 trucks are. So if we were to have a scenario where, in 10 years, and this is the 10-year plan, we max out at 15 trucks, we would have some percentage of employees coming to the site, replacing the work trucks with their personal cars, and then taking the work trucks off-site. And we kind of reserved this space. There's probably five
Is that the
parking
Ogilvy's
spaces.
truck bar?
It is. Ogilvy's just kind of pushed off their oil division. It was absorbed by another company. So there's room here. There's no intent, as I know of, to fill that as of now. So, we kind of have left that as more covered parking down.
So potential expansion for your parking, is that right? Is that
It-
what
we
you're
We
talking
could
about?
go in there with the 15 trucks
Right.
if
We
we
could-
felt that, yeah.
Okay.
Right, so
wanted
if
to.
we had 6 out here and we had 4, maybe 10, and we needed to put some inside, we could put them inside. But again, I mean, if you look at the numbers and you look at the plan, I mean, that's a goal of ours, to have that many trucks in that location over, 10 total locations. We hope we get there.
It's taken us, we started in 2005, and
Right.
we have, only 5 trucks at
Been
this
9
location.
years.
So it, they're goals, and we're obviously shooting for them, but that's on the high end, kind of a maximum.
I only count 12. Unless maybe the 3 to the north of the building are also associated with Pure Solutions. I count 12.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, those 2 little small things are also vehicles?
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of show the scenario.
Okay.
So, so 2 of our office personnel, one of them is our director of client experience, and our operations manager. They're actually roommates, so they don't need to bring two vehicles to work. And we supply our customer service director of client experience person with a smart car. You guys have probably seen it around town, so very small. I mean,
So you're now at 14, actually. 14 spaces shown.
Yeah, 14 spaces shown exactly, and we have 4 office personnel currently and 5 field specialists.
What about the future of the other businesses on the site? Are they gonna stay static, or are they gonna grow as well?
Have to ask them, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's,
I don't know. Weston Landscape, I think is downsizing slightly. I don't really know what their business plan is. Ogilvy's, I don't see any more growth in Ogilvy's business in that yard. We just sold the oil business, so we're less vehicles over there now.
when we've talked with Steve and Phil in passing, and Phil's getting a little bit older, and he's got a really great business, and he's content where he's at. He jokes, down the road he'd even probably consolidate a little bit more. We had 2 excavation companies on site up until this past year that are no longer using the site. So we've really tried to reduce the the businesses, the amount of vehicles, and again, just to reiterate, the proposed building is trying to delineate out kind of where the companies are going to be operating, what part of the property.
And take some of the existing vehicles and put them undercover.
Exactly.
And they're gonna be out of sight, and when they're worked on, it's gonna be, contained in a.
And the other thing
building,
too,
so.
yeah, and to kind of add to Brian's point, the other thing too is this is all just a roof. This is not enclosed. So, you guys have walked down there, you've seen, we've had a couple of vehicles parked in these bays. We didn't show that. So we wanted to kind of say, here's what we think with our engineer. It's a good use of the site, but at the same time, there's all this unusable space in here.
Unused.
Unused space that, could be, you could move all these kind of in. We just kind of wanted to show what we thought was the max. And also, we wanted to, if this is going to be used as a potential, turnaround for a school bus, keeping it, clean here so that that can be done safely. The nice thing is with our business model, and it's really just a function of, again, the efficiencies of our business and our software program. We kind of use the UPS model and take these all right-hand turns. I mean, we leave at 7 a.m. and we come back at 4:35 every day. Our guys, when they fill up to do the yard applications, they go to the farthest point and then work their way back. So there's none of this going back and forth. I mean, granted, it happens every now and then. If there's some type of equipment malfunction or something with a backpack sprayer or something like that, but it's pretty rare.
You said in one of the presentations, at least I think you did, that several times a year you're going to have a big tractor trailer coming on the site for some reason. How does that guy going to maneuver around?
Right. So during the day, all these trucks are gone, and all these trucks are gone. So it frees up a lot of space. These vehicles, currently, they kind of park in place, but again, we wanted to kind of show an outline. I'm gonna have to defer to Kev a little bit on this because of, those kind of pertain to his business. So I'll let you.
Sure. Usually in the past, they've always pulled up to the left of the hay barn area, and then back in between the truck garage and the hay barn, and then come back out again.
But is that area more constricted now that all of the parking is sort of been shoved up to the north part of the site, or
No, I don't think that will affect it at all.
All this parking pretty much exists already here. What they would be doing is pulling up like this and backing in and backing out and or going down. And there hasn't been any issues with parking restricting a tractor trailer truck from coming through there.
I mean, can you envision a time when you won't have those tractor trailers visiting the site anymore? What do they do? Why do they come?
Right now, it's primarily for bringing in either garden supplies, bags of lime, things like that, some shrubbery, Weston landscape. It's pretty much,
So it's associated with Weston landscape only,
at this point in time, yes.
you know?
We've had, our product, we buy all of our product in bulk. We're actually it's kind of cool, we're the largest user of our product in the country. And we buy in 275-gallon totes, and we kind of do a recycling program with our manufacturer. And we actually have that delivered at the upper yard now, and then we truck it down. So, again, just trying to figure out ways where we can, reduce as much activity as possible.
Has the fire department had a look at what you're proposing?
I haven't heard from the fire department. I will talk
Just
to them
wondering
about
about
fire
access
alarms.
around the building.
And again, just one last time, this is if all the vehicles from all the companies were on the site at the same time, and you can come down anytime during the day, and that's never the case. We just wanted to show it, this way so that we can have some talking points as well.
You guys have any questions or comments about working?
No, but I really think the fact that Ogilvy's truck barn is opened up is a big thing. It certainly gives them, if they're talking about with their
Some
10-year
buffer.
plan, which is, I think, fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
Love to see small businesses
Yeah,
grow.
no, we're having fun.
Could-
Sure.
But
Could
to
we
have
just-
that barn open is good.
Could we review process one more time?
Yeah.
So as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have, how many trucks? 5 trucks?
We, territory-wide, we have 10 trucks.
Okay, the territory
On-
includes Chatham?
Includes Chatham in the
Right.
Cape, right.
In Weston,
In Weston, we have five vehicles.
Okay, and let's assume that, for example, that all of a sudden this building comes to be. In other
Right.
words, how would it work exactly? They would be parked in that particular garage, in other words, all of these trucks.
Correct.
Employees would come, they'd park off-site temporarily until the trucks were loaded. Trucks would leave the site.
Correct.
Right, and they'd be gone for the whole day.
They're gone for the entire day.
Right, and then they return at 4:30 in the evening.
Correct.
Pick up the cars again.
They drive the cars out, trucks go into the bays,
Right.
and we close it up.
So that's 5 drivers for those trucks and then 3 employees.
5 drivers for the, in office employees, we have 4 office employees.
4 office employees.
Yeah,
So 5 drivers, 4 office employees.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to have essentially 9 cars at a time, and the idea is, if the expansion plans work, you're looking at what would be the possibility of 15 trucks, is that right?
Total.
But keeping the employees roughly the same.
And that's the 10-year goal.
Right.
Exactly. And we take into account, we probably will have 4 office employees in Chatham, the North Shore location, the Westport, Connecticut location, to support the growth of those field specialists in that client base as well.
But if you have 15 trucks, it means 15 employees driving those trucks. Right?
That's correct.
So I would think the logistical problem or nightmare is it maybe would be that transition period in the morning when 15 cars come in, excluding the office people.
Right.
And they have to park somewhere and then
So how?
take the 15 trucks out and then
Right.
move the cars wherever.
Right.
I mean, that's where it's gonna be.
There's going to be a morning shuffle, which it occurs now. The field specialists start at 7, so it takes them, with the current setup, for the 5 guys to leave roughly 30 to 45 minutes. The office personnel currently is at 582 Boston Post Road, and we arrive at 8. So we have kind of an hour-long window where the field specialists are getting ready. And in the scenario where if we are ever housed under one roof, they'll kind of do their shuffling, be done, and then, the office personnel will come in to support kind of them in the field throughout the course of the day.
So they'd be coming in after
The office personnel
Trucks.
comes in after, and we come in an hour later in the morning, and we stay roughly an hour later at night, just to support them in the field.
Where do you think the snow storage is gonna be? I'm just trying to picture
Yeah.
the shuffle on a morning when there are 8 inches of snow on the
Well,
ground.
the beautiful thing about the winter time is that there are no ticks and mosquitoes, so we're, our
You're not out spraying.
our
not
15
working.
You're not
trucks
working
are-
very much.
Are tucked away, and sleeping, hibernating for the winter time, and then it's just the 4 office personnel that will be coming in and having to park. So it, as far as the shuffle when it's snowing, it's not gonna be probably as bad. Yeah, too much of a problem.
Where would you store the snow? I mean, I'm assuming you have to plow everything.
A lot of it, I mean, I can let Kev answer this, or I can answer a lot of it. The beautiful thing about having Weston Landscape down there is they've got 10 blades. So their guys they're moving the snow all over the place, but, a lot of it kind of begins to congregate over here in the winter time and towards the top part of the
That's where your
site.
septic field's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
We're not gonna put snow on top of our septic fields,
No, I
it's
wouldn't
gonna
think
be.
you would.
There's a
it's gonna
retaining
be-
wall there.
Yeah.
But again, it's, in the wintertime, the Weston Landscape isn't at full capacity during the wintertime, and then obviously we're not at all. We just have our office personnel, so it seems to work, and the beautiful thing is if the snow needs to be removed, then they can remove it, which is great.
And typically, for most of the snow, we should get piled up around this back line here.
Yeah.
That's where most of the car parking is. It's not as utilized in the winter.
Better pray that Weston Landscaping stays there for a while.
You know, yeah.
If they don't, it frees up plenty of parking, right?
Have 30 trucks there.
Right, yeah.
That's no problem.
That'd be,
Too much.
Bob, what do you think? Do you have enough information to go by, or?
Well, I'm just curious, looking long-term, 10 years, what the actual capacity of the barn is, and whether there's a guarantee of sorts that there would be availability in there, because I'm struggling with the mechanics of the morning turnover in particular, because I've been out to the site a couple of times this past fall in December, and I know there was a snowy morning, and I couldn't have gotten my car into that lot. A lot of the Weston Street guys were getting their blades ready and kind of doing the logistics of how the day was going to go. So it can get pretty busy on the site, depending on what the conditions are on any particular day. So while this plan shows everything's kind of in neat rows, which is ideal, that's great, I think the realities of how the business works is probably not going to look exactly like you see that, everything parked in neat rows, especially where some of this involves tandem parking, and you've got, you have to stage how you're moving vehicles, right? So, back to the 10-year plan, what is the capacity of the barn? How many trucks do you think you'd be able to put in there?
in the truck garage, which is this one, or this backside of the
Well,
barn? Because we could technically
All of
use both.
Okay, all the way, yeah.
Well, inside the big truck garage?
Yeah.
It was probably, what was there? At least 8 across the back and 2 in both ends.
Okay, so.
And those were full-size oil trucks
Yeah,
and
okay.
flatbeds. So they're much bigger than the pickups, but.
Okay, and then you've got surplus capacity beyond that in the other buildings.
In
which
the
are-
hay barn.
Under the overhangs.
Yeah, under the overhangs, there's, how many bays are there?
6, I guess.
6, yeah.
That's 16 that we're not utilizing on this plan as overflow.
Um, Explain to me what the mechanics are of getting vehicles into and out of the building. There are gonna be bay doors, obviously, right?
Yeah, so we can show you, this is the building. So we have four bay doors. Do you want to see both of them? Or?
Put it on top.
Yeah, just
Put it
put
up
it
there.
on.
Okay. So there's four bay doors in the front, 12 by 12s. And then the interior is going to be lofted. So the mezzanine level is going to is going to start from the rear side and then come in 25 feet. So the first 25 feet is going to be lofted all the way to the ceiling, and it will be completely open. So there'll be a 5,000 square foot footprint. We'll be able to drive in and maneuver the vehicles within the building.
So, thinking in simple terms, if one of these bay doors it pops open,
Yep.
you're gonna have the ability, as you would with your home, to pull a vehicle fully forward and one behind it.
Correct.
Right.
And and be able to pull the vehicle fully forward, make a sweeping U-turn and park it on this one, in this bay, if you're going into that bay.
Okay, so there aren't any, so-called obstructive columns and things
There's
like
gonna
that.
be, from the, let's see, I believe there's two in the middle, that have plenty of room. Let's see, yeah, so there's, this is gonna be, a center support beam. But again, we'll be able to drive around that, in front of that, et cetera. And that's really, we've kind of always envisioned this as being a glorified parking garage with 2,500 square feet of lofted office space. So we wanted to keep it as open as possible, so we had a lot of different scenarios.
So the surface spaces, are they marked on your plan as being in front of some of these bay doors?
Yeah, so we'll go back. So we were showing that, we could put 6 trucks in front of the 4 in front of the bay doors, and then 2 on either side of the 3x7.
Right, so the mechanics of, so your office staff, they show up after the field
Correct.
techs have arrived, right?
Correct.
So really, the first vehicle to arrive would be field tech.
Right.
They're presumably gonna be parking in one of the spaces that is, not blocking access to a truck. So they go into the building, they back the truck out, and they replace that truck with their car.
With their
So it's gonna
car.
be staged that way. okay?
Exactly, and none of our, granted, we will have employees that have trucks at some point, but as of now, they all have vehicles that we could actually stack in 3s
Mhm.
in these bays, on top of the carpooling option.
Mhm.
We have 2 techs that carpool, and we have 2 employee staff that carpool. We're a pretty tight-knit group, so.
So if I'm an office worker, could I expect to have a space outside as opposed to having to necessarily leave my vehicle inside? It seems like there's a lot of jockeying that needs to happen.
Right, so
inside.
currently, if you were an office employee, you could have a spot inside.
With the current truck.
With the current truck,
That being.
Oh, with the current 5.
with the
Yeah.
current 5.
Correct, right, but I'm thinking longer term.
So long-term,
Yeah,
we show the ability to have 8, obviously we think we could have more. But we would, leave, this would be an area where we could stack, 3 vehicles, and then we had opportunity to put them in front if, we got to that point again. That's beyond the 5-year plan.
Mhm.
So the immediate 5-year plan, we're staying at the current capacity truck-wise.
We also don't know what else is gonna happen with the other existing businesses.
Right.
As they mature over the next 10 years. Their plans are not necessarily to grow more on that site. If anything, it's gonna be to consolidate. So, there's opportunity in that 10-year time period to be able to utilize, some of their current spots.
Like-
Just if we needed to, or if we preferred that option.
Rough numbers, one truck can service within a 21-day cycle, between 150 and 175 accounts. Currently, we have a truck going down to the South Shore, Duxbury, Hingham, Situate, Cohasset, every single day. We are within a season or two of making the call on a storage office space on the South Shore, which would, take away one, if not two, vehicles from the existing 5 on this location. So, again, we wanted to kind of show that, it would be great if we had 15 trucks on the site, but the reality is, from an efficiency standpoint, we want to have locations with trucks, not one site with lots of trucks.
The number of vehicles that you're showing on the plan for Weston Tree and Landscape, does that reflect the current fleet that they have?
It does, yeah. So Peter Gammy went out and did analysis and counted and then put them in accordingly.
And their operation, I suspect, would operate similar, so worker shows up, they swap their truck for a landscaping vehicle.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Right. So and I'm not sure that this applicant can necessarily answer this, but Weston Tree and Landscape's gonna have the same issue of having the jockey in what appears to be a more constrained portion of the site, where they have the flexibility of using the southerly portion of the site for that purpose. This kind of pushes all of that activity up into that corner. So I'd imagine there may be some challenges with.
Yeah, they typically use this area in front of our garage, truck garage,
Yeah,
or the space in here
right,
to pull their trucks and trailers out and get their cars in.
right.
So it's those 2 locations they usually do the jogging around.
Yeah, and we get along really well, and we've been operating with them since 2005. And, we all, have work to do, and, we make it pretty easy on each other to get in and out.
What's the space that Weston Container uses?
So currently, Weston Container is using this area right here. Most of the time, their containers are off-site, but when they do dump a container or two, they've been using that location for their containers.
And what do their containers contain?
They're empty.
They're empty at that point. So
What did they contain?
it can be a wide variety of things.
For construction debris, it's like, yeah, they're a trucking business that you have
Okay.
containers for demolition.
So if Billy Rowe is doing work in town or in adjacent towns, they actually started the company because they found a need for shipping all the debris off whatever site they were on, which is great. So they'll drop a container, it'll be there for weeks, months, however long the job is, and they dump that. And typically that container's booked for another job, and it'll go just directly to the next job. Sometimes it'll be there for a day or two or whatever.
Where are those shown on the plan?
We did not show them on the plan, because the reality is that they're not always there.
But they're there weeks, months.
Correct.
When
So
they're there, and how many are there?
to that point though, all these vehicles here are technically parked right here, right? So all this space is open. We wanted to show, for this purpose, there was a previous rendition where we did show the containers, but for the purpose of, if we were to have all the vehicles on the site at the same time, this is what it would look like. But when these trucks are gone, these vehicles are parked here, which frees up all this space. So, a working site wouldn't have all those vehicles parked there, and that would give the ability for, if in a scenario where Weston Container needed to drop a container, they would have the ability to drop it there.
So if you go out on the site right now, there's a lot of plow blades where your building is proposed. Where do those go?
Well, in the future.
And where do the dumpsters go that are out there?
So those are the containers. So they, you know, that would be.
Well, there's dumpsters all along, you know, in a couple of locations along where Weston,
I think
Landscaping.
we're using the term interchangeably, the dumpster and the.
So the dumpster is the
It
container.
container,
Yeah.
I think. Weston container, that's what those big bins with the tops open on them.
right?
Those are the
There's
containers.
the containers.
So, I mean, there's presently, I would say, half, well, at least a third of the space where your building is being proposed has got plow blades on it now.
It did. Those blades are now on all the trucks. So that would be an example of, you know, all of this unusable space right here would be blade storage space. So just if we were to use this top bay here, we could stack the majority of the blades in that top bay when, you know, they're not being used. But for the remainder of the season, they're typically going to be on the trucks. And that's part of the reorganization of the site. You know, by us moving out of those, you know, the overhang bays, that enables Weston Landscape to put a lot of that, you know, loose equipment in organize them, which is, you know, around back, which is, you know, what we're hoping.
I mean, a lot of this is sort of anecdotal. It's like, but, you know, what I'm hearing is that there's almost a double use for every square foot.
That's
You
kind
know,
of.
snow storage and snow
Right.
plow blades.
And that's 80 years worth of, yeah.
Right,
Containers.
there's a lot of shuffling and
Yeah,
depending on the time of year and who needs what for space, we all work together and make it work over there.
And that's kind of always been the way that use has been on that property. And we're really, you know, taking a step back, we're not increasing the use of this lot by astronomical numbers and by large percentages to what's currently on the property.
Or previously.
Or previously on the property. And actually, currently as we stand, we have less trucks and less heavy equipment, bulldozers, oil trucks, excavators than we've ever had in the past. And that's been, you know, in part because we're trying to reduce and consolidate the usage on the property. And we believe that with this building, you know, we're going to be just, again, contributing to that kind of delineating and separating out the three businesses and cleaning up this site overall. So, I mean, we've lost more than 10 vehicles on this property, and we're talking about heavy-duty equipment over the past couple of years. And 10 vehicles are all that we're looking to increase the use of this property by.
In over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
the existing oil truck garage, is that just for oil, was that just for oil trucks? There's office space above the garage port, right?
There is.
It's just for the trucks?
Just for trucks.
Because one of the questions I'm asking is, at least for the time being, you now have a building that's empty. Could that be part of the startup? You know,
Well, I kind of wonder why you're asking that question if we're asking to build a building.
No, I'm just saying.
Right, but,
it-
I mean,
I'm just-
we would like to have a new building.
They want, so it's, but.
It's
I mean, as a practical
building is-
matter, could
Yeah.
you, if you wanted to, use that existing building as part
Put
of the
anything in it,
operation?
couldn't put offices in it, but we could
No.
put trucks in it, other trucks, sure.
You know,
Plenty of space in there.
Ogilvy's has wanted to reserve the right to use that space, which they should be able to. We've actually asked, and, you know, I think they just, you know, at this time, that wasn't an option. You know, so we wanted to, that's why we're here with the proposed piece.
So I'm curious, David, you seat of the pants understood, you know, not heavy analysis and stuff.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Uh,
Any major red flags jump out, you know, that you're really scared about, you know?
Well, look, you know, they're operating multiple businesses at the site, and it's in their own best interest to make sure that everyone gets along and it works. And I don't have any doubt that history shows it actually does work. It ain't pretty, but they manage to shuffle things around the site. Now, unlike a typical commercial site where you have physically marked spaces and a more you know, calculated way of getting into a space and leaving.
Like for a retail site or something.
Correct, right.
This is an industrial site.
Yeah, so it's,
Commercial.
Or commercial.
Commercial.
Sorry.
right. But the way they've historically operated the site, I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Say, it's not pretty, but they do kind of waltz the cars around in a way, and the trucks, and make it work.
What
So-
worries me, that's work because there's a lot of shuffle room right now.
Right.
Now there's a bottleneck right in the middle of the site. That's what worries me. That what used to be an area where you can sort of be loosey-goosey about it,
Yeah.
now you can't be loosey-goosey anymore.
Yeah,
Because
Because especially at that, right there at the garage, it's right in the nexus of
Right.
where
Well-
people are coming and going and pulling it in and out, and that,
Yeah, so
that's a little
that
tight.
is the gateway to the rest of the site,
Yeah.
right? So, one of my perspectives in looking at this is school bus turnaround is one issue. And I'm reluctant to say that it would be easy, in reality, to go in there and have accessible space for that purpose on a regular basis, right? So if a school bus is on the road at 7:15 and they need to use this site to reverse direction, they need to do so in the portion of the site that's closest to the Pure Solutions building, and where there's a lot of shuffling going on and a lot of ins and outs from the Weston Tree and Landscape business. That area has some potential to be, you know, constrained. All right, so that's a consideration. So I'm not sure if, despite the goodwill and understanding that OLVs would allow school bus municipal vehicle to turn around, I'm not sure from a practical perspective if that is gonna work all that well. You know, it's be a crapshoot to, you know, depending on what the weather was in that particular day and how many employees are shuffling vehicles around, think that space would be open on a regular basis. So that would be a concern. I think, I would imagine that OVs or anyone else on the site, Pure Solutions, if they need a delivery on a particular day, they can schedule or at least understand which day that's going to occur on and at what time of day that is likely to occur and be able to accommodate that. Right? So historically, I think that's probably the way that it's worked. I think, based on what I'm seeing on the plan, if vehicles were shuffled in the orientation that you see, I think you could have a reasonable expectation that a tractor trailer or any larger vehicle could eventually maneuver its way out of there. You know, but I think it would need to be a scheduled event. You wouldn't want to have a tractor trailer showing up at 7 in the morning.
And it doesn't happen, you know, it's a couple times a year, so they're expecting it, you know,
Right.
and waiting for that delivery.
So, you know, externally, you know, from the neighborhood perspective, I don't think there's going to be what I call material change in traffic impact necessarily. I think within the property, they've got a vested interest in making sure everyone's working well together so that they all have viable businesses. I think historically they've done that, and you know, I'm usually in a position as an engineer to look at hard data on what parking demand is by time of day, what kind of employment levels they can expect over time, what increase in truck activity might occur that would require parking. You know, so that a more rigorous formal approach here. What I'm hearing is that there's some level of flexibility within the property that would allow for, accommodate what they're suggesting to be an increase of 10 vehicles within the property. I think any reasonable person could probably say, gee, you know, where they've got a reduction in oil business on the property, and maybe there are fewer contractor-type vehicles, dozers and things like that, that they're essentially being swapped out for these other 10, that they'll get it to work somehow. You know, so I think that if they manage it properly, it could probably work. I'm not in a position right now as an engineer to say, well, if you physically mark spaces and you did this, this, and that, that's exactly how many spaces you need. I think this is a more, as you say, a little more anecdotal. But I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out at me saying that this can't work. I think there's going to be a higher burden on the operators to make sure that they're all working together well, that, you know, the shift change that Pure Solutions has, they get their employees and techs out by 7 in the morning. Our data shows that Weston Tree and Landscape has additional activity, you know, between 7 and 8 in the morning. There's another surge of vehicles that come out of there associated with that after Pure Solutions is kind of off the site with their techs. So I think that they can probably achieve a balance based on the data that I've seen.
One of the things that worries me the most is what happens if there's a fire on this site, because the building in the back is a wooden building with no sprinklers. And it's gonna go up like, so I just want to, that's why I asked about the fire department, because before we sign off, I'd like to get the fire department to sign off on the configuration, that they can get in there, that they can get access to the buildings, if they, to the, especially the building in the back if it catches on fire.
Is there even a hydrant anywhere near there?
I don't even know. I think there's one down on the driveway, but I don't think there's one on site at all.
I think there's gonna be one right in front of 74.
In front of it.
Worn out, which means it would have to come up the easement into the site.
Yeah, it's a
to
long
pull-
haul.
That's a long haul.
I just want to be sure that it's safe.
But Al, where I live, there are no hydrants.
I know, but you
And
can
we have
get
no fire
at your
pond.
house.
Yeah, but there's no water.
But,
You can get at it.
okay. Well, what are you saying?
Well, I'm just saying that sometimes you just can't plan for every last ultimate event, and this building has been here for a long, long time, and it hasn't gone up yet.
But the access is being restricted then.
Well, it's not in what respect?
Well,
It's-
there's a
it's-
building there.
You can get the same access through the,
That way.
right,
but then-
and how much more do you need than that?
To bring a truck up, yeah.
Right down there.
It's the same access.
And just again, this is proposed, but we don't actually need to put vehicles there right now.
Yeah.
And we can put those technically in the Ogilvy's garage. So it's actually all of this space that's available. And that's now, then that includes the 5-year plan that is in the business plan.
And I think the fire department in the past, I think, has thought about, if there was a fire in that building, to control it from Warren Lane up above on the hill, to shoot water down onto it,
Okay,
to control
Okay,
it.
I mean-
Not to put it out.
well, all I'm saying is, if they're happy with it, I'm happy with it. But I would like to have them, so I'm
Sign
not,
off.
sign off. I don't feel that I'm.
Well, obviously, they haven't had a plan in the past of how to approach that. Okay, cool, then that's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm happy with it if fire department's happy with it as well.
Great. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. The section that deals with vehicular requirements in the zoning, as a result of, well, the building inspector issued a determination that 33 spaces were needed for the proposed new building. There's a provision in the parking requirements which basically says that for pre-existing uses, you can't decrease the number of existing parking spaces. So I guess one of my questions is the number of existing parking spaces on site. And then you would have to add the additional 33 that the building inspector has determined for the new building, in addition to 4 spaces for the existing duplex. So that ends up being around, depending on what the baseline is, like 70, 75 parking spaces.
And what did we show here?
And I think
With the idealized
67 are shown. So that's,
Isn't that when the special permit comes into play though?
That's one I'm nervous about. It doesn't work.
I'm not sure, but I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's issue 1, what is the baseline parking spaces? I've been out there a couple of times and it's ranged in parking spaces from what I've seen to anywhere from 35 to 45 people parking on the site. So that's kind of one issue. Second issue is that there's a provision that says construction of all required parking areas shall be so constructed and shall be of a material as to avoid undue dust erosion and flow of water onto public ways or adjacent property or areas shall be reasonably landscaped and maintained. Now, some of the site is paved, some of the site is dirt. So,
So we're gonna ask.
I
you to
don't
make
know
it
what
limited.
what's the percentage of coverage on your site? Because I haven't seen a plan that shows that.
The building coverage,
No, the lot coverage. I
the lot,
haven't seen anything that shows that. The building coverage is supposed to be, it can go up to 25%, you're at almost 23%.
23%. And then this is the existing, this is John Hamill's plan, and this is the existing concrete.
Yeah, so what's that percentage? Did he ever run that?
Let me see, does he run it? Do you see it? I don't see it.
So if you could get that figure, that would help.
Okay, so let me write that down.
So, in facilities for loading and unloading stock merchandise, equipment, material, and supplies to serve the use conducted should be provided. So, I think you need to show where the loading and unloading happens. There,
Loading of what?
of anything that you're loading and unloading.
For Pure or
For everything,
For
for
everybody?
everybody. I think for
Will they
everybody.
load lawnmowers onto trailers, that sort of thing, or?
Well, I think particularly if you have, your tractor trailer coming in, or
Yeah.
if you have,
Is that 1 or 2 times a year?
There's no real designated spot. for
right,
loading
but
and
then if
unloading.
there's other loading and unloading, you talked about how your totes are delivered to the other site and then they're brought down here.
Right, they're put on the back of a pickup truck, and that pickup truck drives inside of the warehouse.
And that site is gonna change because that'll happen inside the building now.
Okay.
So it's,
And then how does,
Percent
so there is a provision, so you need the baseline number of parking spaces, the square footage of the impervious area. What else? The loading area.
When you say the baseline number of parking spaces, do you mean the existing?
Yeah. I mean, there's a provision in the parking that says pre-existing uses. The use of a building, structure, or premises in existence at the time of this section was adopted shall not be subject to the requirements set forth herein, provided that any existing parking facilities which do not meet the requirements hereof shall not therefore be reduced in size or otherwise rendered further non-conforming. So,
So does that mean that there have to be 33 additional spaces to?
that's what the
in
building
addition to the
inspector is
existing?
saying.
and,
And is that possible?
the ZBA is granting us a special permit saying we don't have to do that. That's, I thought, what that whole hearing was about.
Okay, well,
And that's
but
what, yeah,
But then,
okay.
it's more complicated. There is a provision in the parking regulations which states that with respect to any use in a business district, the office and research development districts, or commercial district, which is what this is, which requires site plan approval, the planning board may, as part of the site plan approval, allow a reduction of the number of parking spaces otherwise requested in this section by up to 20%, where it determines that the reduction is reasonable in circumstances and would not deviate from the bylaw. So it's the planning board that has the authority to do that.
But that's only 20% less.
20%
20% of 33.
Or 20% of the whole. So if you're talking 70 spaces, then you're talking 14 parking spaces.
Well, is it the whole, or is it the
Decrease-
additional?
Decrease by
amount?
14 would be decreased by 20%, which is where we stand now with the 67.
I would think it
So-
would be the 33 spaces minus the 14 that you would be allowed to reduce from the total number. Am I right? Or am I wrong? I mean, I'm not sure.
I can check with John,
Yeah.
too. But it's the planning board that has
That
the
has
authority
is the
to
permitting
decrease.
authority.
Right.
Okay. We could grant a reduction.
I'm not even sure, in this case, it's so squishy, I'm not even, it's not like a regular parking lot, that there are cars all over the place.
True.
So,
This is an idealized version.
Yeah.
They said when they came in. This is the, when we first went out there, it reminded me of my attic, the whole site.
I mean,
So much stuff
I know.
everywhere. It was unbelievable.
I
And I'm
know.
sure you guys have cleaned it up and organized it in your brains a lot better. in
Also,
order-
yes, started the process physically too.
But just having to
Well,
actually
that won't
think
last
about
forever,
this
though.
has
Yeah.
helped a lot.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
No, this has been great, seriously.
I'm
It adds
looking
up a lot.
at least one car there that is impossible to park.
The one that would have to have the
There's
bays
a
open.
couple of them, this is
Well,
pretty
no,
To
much-
get into
there's
the garage.
one in the corner there next to the septic system where, I don't know how that guy got in there, but he's never gonna get out unless the people behind him back out. There are cars shown there,
Mhm. On the
but
other
they don't
hand,
really.
this
Oh,
has
you're
worked.
talking this guy?
That guy,
Yeah.
either one of those
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah.
but this is a site that has worked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
I know,
when we're talking about reductions,
Yeah.
we have the authority to grant a 20% reduction.
Mhm.
20% of what?
Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
question. Yeah. Of the 33 additional spaces,
Well,
The
that
ca-
has been helpful for you.
It has,
Figuring this
Yeah.
out, because you guys put a lot of work into all this planning.
It has been really helpful.
And,
But
so you've shown us a total of how many spaces here?
So
67.
we've shown a total of
That's all.
67. We have the capacity for 16 more spaces that we didn't show. That includes inside and underneath the overhang. But again, all of these cars that add up to the 67 spaces actually are parked up over here. So this space is all freed of parking. We just wanted to show max capacity, critical mass. If all the vehicles were on the site at the same time, this is what the scenario would look like, which doesn't happen.
Well, what about if you knew how many trucks and cars were used and needed by Weston Landscape, and you could identify which ones those were, then that would indicate how many empty parking spaces there are. So like if those ones on the right don't really exist, then,
They do exist, but they're replacing the 17 and the 4.
right.
The spaces
I guess my
exist,
question,
not the
The
vehicles.
spaces exist, yes, sorry, not the vehicles.
Right.
right, but I guess my question is,
In those
does that represent the actual number of vehicles that Weston Landscape uses?
These are the numbers that Peter Gammy pulled when he was on the site, and he talked with Steve Lyons as well.
It might be easier for people to understand, I don't know if you're gonna do it for this, but in the future, if you maybe color, take
Right.
a color magic marker for real vehicles and another color for like additional spaces that aren't being used.
No, yeah.
And
Yeah.
a color for Pure and a color for Weston,
Right,
because now there are only two businesses on the site.
Yeah.
right.
And another question I would have,
So
which
three,
is.
if you
There's three.
consider the container business.
True, true.
They don't happen to have a building, they just
Right.
drop containers.
Another question I would have, which is hypothetical, which is if we were to approve this project, would we have the ability to review the situation every, 5 years or so, like we do camps or
I don't know
whatever?
what
so
you
that-
review.
Well-
I mean, as Bob was saying, you have to depend on them, that the
To make it
thing
work.
about this site is that that there aren't people coming to shop here or anything like that.
Right.
That everybody that's on this site is related to the site.
And has
So
a
you
vested
have to-
interest in making it work.
That's
Right,
right,
exactly.
they have to make it work.
Right, but
Um,
if 5 years from now, there are 5 more trucks, or 10 more trucks, or ever many more trucks.
For a different
Weston
business.
landscape changes, or something changes, would we have the ability to review it
You
and?
can always condition that.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can always
sure, if there's a
condition
change,
that.
That's what I'm
if there's a
asking.
change in occupancy,
Yeah.
or change in use, we'd wanna review what the implications of the changes.
Exactly, and the ZBA said that as well, and we think that's totally fair. If there's a change in use on the site, then it should be
Or a change in the number of
in the
trucks,
or
whatever.
companies, right, there should be a review process.
But Betsy's right, that we have to get to a baseline number,
Mhm.
and we have to get to what additional, if there is any, is being requested, or just.
So we can do the reduction of
So we can do the
20%.
reduction.
Yeah,
So
we don't have a
in the
number.
decision,
Yeah, we really need a number.
we need to
Yeah.
justify, that we're staying within the requirements of the zoning bylaw.
Right.
So,
But then the ZBA can reduce it further?
I don't think
Well,
so.
they can grant relief.
They've thrown the ball back in our court.
Yeah, I don't think they can reduce it further.
Okay, 'cause it made it sound like
They,
you said that.
yeah, I mean, as far as our understanding, after we left the meeting with Jonathan White, was we didn't need to have the 33 spaces that are in the bylaw associated with the new building.
And how was that determination made? Who made that determination?
That was,
I mean, I'm almost 100% sure that was made by CBA board.
We can check their minutes.
Jane and, yeah.
I asked for their minutes.
I know.
Figured fun.
And I mean, I don't wanna say something, I mean, I'm pretty positive that that was the conclusion of the meeting.
They made a determination.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I want that on the record.
Okay.
No, really, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, I don't think I'm delusional here. I don't.
So, just to clarify one more thing.
Yeah.
The building right now, the Ogilvy building itself, has no activity. It used to be where the oil truck storage was.
There's still some activity in there. We store our other trucks for deliveries in there.
Okay, so it's a storage shed essentially. Okay.
It's a mechanics bay. with
I know.
change rooms and-
So, I'm not sure that, we'll have to, the impression I have is that the zoning board of appeals overruled the building inspector with respect to the requirement that you have 33 trucks associated with your solutions.
Yes, 33 spaces.
33 spaces.
Correct.
That's the impression I have. We just need that confirmed
Okay.
in their minutes or somehow
Okay.
confirmed. In which case now we're down to a mathematical question of how many spaces that
Did the
zoning
ZBA
bylaw
just
would
said they don't need
require.
any spaces? They
Well,
get rid
I
of
think we
33?
need some clarification.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah, so
It
that,
sounds like they just throw
Right.
36 spaces. Just like that, you
I'm
don't
not
need-
sure how they can,
That's why I
change the
wanted,
building
that's why I
inspector's
wanted something in
determination.
writing from the
Yeah.
ZBA,
Yeah.
that's in fact what they did and why.
We're gonna need to continue this stuff down,
yeah.
Sounds that
So
way.
this is-
Yeah.
we're just down to parking.
unless we want to, do some
Well,
sort
there's
of
a lot
contingency.
coverage issue too.
Yeah, so
Right,
if
they
you guys
can
can get me
tell
that information, then,
I can have it to you tomorrow.
okay. So we're gonna have to continue this to, the first meeting in February, probably.
Luckily, the ticks are all asleep, so.
God.
So we have a, a scheduled hearing with ZBA on the last Wednesday, the 28th
Yeah,
of the month of this,
January.
of January of this month, hoping that we could come up with something with the planning board before then, so we don't have to ask for another extension with them, but obviously.
Okay, but it would be interesting to find out what they say, if they grant.
Yeah, and I don't wanna put, I'm not trying to put any
We would
words
just like to
in
find
their
what they
mouth, I
say.
just,
Yeah,
to
that's
be
all.
very
Yeah.
clear.
What did you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
We've got 3 items outstanding, right?
We
That's
have-
what the ZBA said, the coverage and the parking number.
Right.
That's it, as far as I know.
In the fire department, right?
In the
Our
fire department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if those get all resolved, can we try to fit them in on the 21st? And try and
All
make
4
it a
things.
short, you know?
Okay, the 21st, we have 3 public hearings, one of which is gonna be very contentious.
Really?
No. Or I'm anticipating it's gonna be contentious. Plus, we'll have review of the decision for 255 Merriam.
We're not doing that today.
Yeah.
No, it's we're not ready.
So, if you wanna be here until midnight, but,
Please
We don't want-
no,
Yeah.
no, I've been trying to cap,
Thank
I've
you.
been trying to cap things, so,
Is it possible to have like a contingency approval?
I don't have a draft decision even started for
Okay.
this one.
I just.
Well, how could you?
Right, exactly.
Well, that's what I was wondering if.
But you know, it isn't that much time for the 1st of February meeting.
This was opened before I even started.
Yes,
So-
yeah, no, but I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
physical time right now.
Right.
For them, it's not like you're gonna have to wait till April to
Right.
get on the docket.
Right.
It's just
I
one
mean-
meeting away.
Right, but that delay, you know, it just
I
pushes and
understand, but they
pushes.
can't break ground anyway.
They're
They have
gonna-
frozen solid.
They're gonna be, you know,
We can start
They
the
can-
design process on the foundation though.
they can,
Which would be
you know, they
great.
can continue with the ZBA, you know, to the meeting in February, and we should have things done, wrapped up on the 7th.
Is it possible to get something in writing from you guys saying that these are the last 3 things that we need to give you for answers? Just because I feel like.
Four
Four things,
Four
that's right.
things.
You have
Right,
one
I think
which
I have
might-
one.
We have 4 things,
Yeah, we would like something concrete.
so that we can just be done with this next time, hopefully.
Well, I'm gonna have to get some clarity from the building
Yeah.
inspector on the,
In the
and
ZBA.
you're gonna have to provide some base information on the number
I'm
of units.
readily available, 7 to 5 every day to get you
So,
whatever you need.
I don't
I
see
just
any-
don't see it going on the 21st.
Okay.
That's
And that's
fine,
fine.
but what about responding to the last question? Could we provide some assurance when they go to the ZBA, for them to be able to tell the ZBA that we're down to 3 or 4 items that are still
Sure.
outstanding?
I'll draft something for you to sign.
And if
That'd be
we,
fantastic.
if we are able to get all, all 4 of these items resolved this week, it sounds like a lot of this is just us coming up with some numbers with our original site plan, John Hamill, then, we'd have a pretty good understanding, right, when we meet with them on the 28th, that everything is in good shape, right?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
But, whenever you do that,
Right.
something comes
Right,
and hits
okay.
you in the back.
But it is the
Yeah.
planning
Maybe
board.
it's time
Okay.
to say yes.
So,
Don't blame
Yeah.
them. It's nice
Oh,
to
you're
see
right,
them.
yeah.
I would love to too, but there is that issue.
yeah, no, and we want to do it
Well, and
right.
I think
Number
we
issue
need
is
clarity
there, yeah.
on what they voted on vis-à-vis the
Oh,
parking,
absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
this board has the ability to cut their parking 20%.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no, we
We need to
appreciate,
get
you
the fire
don't, you don't get,
department and all
Right,
those
right.
4
They haven't got that
things.
information?
yeah,
You haven't got that information from the
No.
yeah.
the zoning board?
No.
We gave, yeah,
You
we
guys
got the
don't?
memorandum.
No, we don't.
Oh,
no,
It's embarrassing that you noticed.
no, we got a memorandum.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we have a
But
memorandum.
it's,
But we don't
it's not
have-
real clear.
We don't have anything that actually describes the
Yeah, no,
decision
right.
relative to that issue. The number of cars that the building inspector says are required for that use versus what the zoning board of appeals determined.
Right.
So right now, we have a story about what happened, but we
Right.
don't know exactly what happened.
Right, yeah. Great, well, thank you for your time, I mean, we're getting there.
Okay, so this is being continued to February 4th.
All right, thank you.
But you should realize, we're stretching the envelope quite a bit.
No, we are very much appreciate the time and
No, no.
everything.
And yeah, the envelope stretching.
Yeah, we do.
This is February 4th at 8:30.
8:30.
Parking area.
Right, it's a special permit. And that's. Okay.
So can I just, the four things are the fire department, the number of spaces,
The baseline number of
the
spaces.
baseline number of
How many
spaces.
spaces are there now?
Existing, yeah.
That's not vehicles on the lot, that's just available spaces, is that correct?
Yeah, available spaces.
But shouldn't we also know how many vehicles each business has?
Well, you've got that number on.
It's a
there.
moving number.
That's on there.
Yeah, we have that number.
It would tell you how many would be.
I'm just, and then, the percent of concrete coverage,
Well, of impervious coverage on the lot.
okay, square footage of impervious coverage.
I know, there's so many moving parts to that.
The clarification for what?
From the ZBA.
ZBA.
The clarification.
I'll get that.
Now, should we go to the fire department?
No,
Or-
no,
okay.
I'll go to the fire department.
Okay, so you guys only got two things on your bucket list. You're
Is
going
the,
to
is the
ZBA.
parking and the parking
Lot coverage.
baseline and the.
Lot coverage.
lot coverage.
Okay.
So you guys will be going to the ZBA
In the fire department?
Yeah.
I know we have a kind of pre-existing parking plan on here.
I mean, there was a parking plan that was submitted a while ago
Yeah, and then I'm just
that
curious.
had a lot of stacked parking.
Yeah, but that's not it.
I agree, I'm only
An
an
hour
hour.
late.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so we're
Sorry,
continuing
guys,
February.
No, it's a totally,
February
thank you.
4th, 8:30. Okay.
We saw that, yes.
So we're continuing to what date, Betsy?
Yep,
What date do we continue?
February 4th.
February 4th at 8:30.
Continuing to February 4th at 8:30.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's gonna be talking about. Thank you. It's very, very sort of.
This is
And
question
one
mark.
thing-
Yep,
But it does remind me. And then it also-
But the operating room is becoming small. You have to-
And that's what they do. They would.
Good night, guys. Nice to hear you.
Bob, are you sticking around?
Am I?
Wait a minute, let me find out.
Steve, you need help?
No.
Steve, you need help?
No. No?
Not sticking around.
Hello, yeah. So, we'll be in touch, I'm sure though, about marking out that U-turn loop and having neighborhood meetings.
We've got
Yeah,
to.
from Greg.
Yeah.
I think I'll join
We
him.
deferred that until after the first of the year.
Right, and here it is after the first one. So
Right.
sometime, I think we said sometime in February.
That's what I thought, right, yeah. Maybe by then I'll start planning how to use
And the other thing is,
Okay, we'll hit on those points that we talked about.
Oh, yes.
You're gonna show someone around?
Unless you, right. Show away, turn them, that's the other way. Right.
We'll talk
we
tomorrow.
don't- we don't need 747 runways.
I don't know if it's worth it.
Right.
Maybe you can angle your laptop a little bit, and you can just stand at your laptop.
With the lights, we'll go on the other side.
Steve, I saw Peter around somewhere. Is he still?
He's in the bathroom with everyone
Okay.
else.
The answer to the question that Glenn Cardoza questioned, he got rid of all the lights on the driveway.
Oh, you called?
No, he was right there.
Oh, he was there? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That was a smart thing for him to do. If he really had it, to try to figure
Yeah,
that one out.
yeah. So,
All right. Well. Steve, is there anything new in this that we didn't see last time?
No,
No.
so we don't really need to, we don't really need graphics so much, but I have brought them.
What Steve and I talked about is hitting on 4 points,
Okay,
and we'll, this is one of them.
okay.
So, at the last hearing,
Wait a minute, I'm the only one here.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you talking to? There's nobody here.
Well, I'm here.
Well, you don't count.
No, I know that for a long time.
You're just a cheat.
These are the most uncomfortable chairs in the
I'm
world.
thinking about buying some custom pillows to bring in the future.
You just need me to adjust your back, that's all.
I think so.